Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to H3 TV, where week after week, we remind you that disruption doesn't have to define you, and we can be hopeful, healthy, and happy, even in the midst of much change and unknown in our world. I'm so happy you're with me today. I always appreciate you showing up. I love to remind you, you can ask questions throughout the comments, live or after the show, and we will definitely respond to you. But before we jump into our show today, I just want to give a huge thank you to those of you that have supported my new business that only started a week ago, and we have sold 61 pineapple principle packs. And for every 3 we sell, we donate one to women in transition. And it is a pack of comfort and love, recognition, appreciation, and support as we journey through life. Pineapples, bags, and blankets, and books, and bottles to help support you and to spread love all over the world. The feedback has been amazing. Please help me hit 100 sales by the end of July. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your support on my P3 pineapple packages, my newest product this year. All right, today, please help me welcome to the stage Marjorie. Hi, Marjorie. Thanks for being with me today.
Oh, Annie, what a pleasure. It's been a really long day, and this is a great, great way to start the evening and end a wonderful day.
Awesome. Well, tell us who you are, where you live, and what you do.
Well, my name's Marjie, and I've been in public relations for, I hate to say it, I'm going to date myself now, over 30 years. And I live in Israel and the United States. I'm the mother of 3 grown children, boy, girl, 27, 24, 19. And I recently had a shift, a transition, a reinvention that was kind of sent by the universe, if I can put it that way, because I was having a conversation with my older daughter, literally where I'm sitting right now. She was here, and it's an L-shaped couch. I'm in my living room. Welcome to my living room. And I was over there, and we were talking about visions and missions, and she said, Mom, you made mistakes, but overall, I think you got it right. I think you should help the next generation of working moms figure out this work-family balance thing, because my friends are concerned they can't pull it off. And I told them, you've been doing it for 25 years. So of course they can. So this is what I think you should do. And after I got over the shock, Annie, of this endorsement, because frankly speaking, I really wasn't expecting it, like all moms, we don't always get it right. And there's, tiffs and all sorts of stuff over the years. Yeah. So I was really quite excited about that. And I thought to myself, what is it that I had gotten right? Mm. And when I look back, I understood that I had unintentionally used my public relations executive skills to raise my kids, and it had worked. Wow. So I thought, all right, I'm going to try to pay this forward, because if we can teach our kids to be more confident, resilient, and have some level of success, and by doing this, encourage them to have a very nice level of self-love, then perhaps they'll pay that forward to their own kids and future generations. And the net result would be a kinder, more respectful world, the kind that we all like to live in, but that doesn't exactly exist right now.
Yeah, but we're getting there, because people like you and me have a passion for getting us there. So what I like to always have my guests share is something of your own disruption, some storm, something you've gone through in your life. So is there a time, it can be professional or personal, of some season where you were things were challenging, whether it was in your work or in your personal life?
It all kind of happens at the same time, don't you think? When it rains, it pours, right?
Yes, and if it doesn't wait for one to heal before the next one comes, for sure. Yes.
Exactly. So my husband had unexpectedly collapsed on a Saturday morning, and the crashing sound was a noise I had absolutely never heard before. I didn't know what it was. So for me to get up at 7:30 on a Saturday morning and be wide awake, something really happened. And when I found him, he was laying on the floor and he was bleeding. Anyway, long story short, I had a crisis on my hands. I didn't freak out. I didn't even feel any adrenaline. I just kind of went into PR crisis mode, because that's what I do. That's what we all do. That's what we should do, which is assess the situation, decide on strategy and next steps, and then implement on your own if you can. And if not, then you get the help of your team. At the office, it's your colleagues. At home, it's your kids or whoever happens to be around. And that's kind of what we did. I had my kids were around and they were extremely helpful. And then it was a whole story of,
Did your husband have a heart attack, or did he pass away, or?
No, thank God he's okay. Thank the universe. Thank whatever entity you want to thank. It all worked out in the end. It turned out to be a double embolism.
Okay.
And because the way he crashed, he ricocheted his spinal cord and had issues with the spinal cord. We didn't know for 5 days if he could walk again. So it was quite a bit to the ICU. And this was around a month before COVID hit. And within a month, everything changed for the world. If you remember when COVID started, nobody knew what was what, how to go about it, how much distance, and we're still trying to kind of learning about all that stuff now. And at that time, I lost my one major client. So here I was with a sick husband, kids at home, now unemployed, if you will, because I didn't have any clients at the time, because I had put all my eggs in one basket, which was a really good lesson for me, not to put all my eggs in any one basket ever.
Or for all of us, a great lesson. Don't be 100% dependent on one client. Good to have a backup plan, or two or three.
Absolutely. Over the years, I've had tons of clients, cooperated with all sorts of different professionals across the world. This one just seemed like a really good opportunity to just have one fabulous client. It all seemed so wonderful, so perfect. Everything just seemed terrific. And then one day it was all gone. And,
How long was your husband in the hospital?
He was in the hospital for 10 days.
Okay, 10 days. And so you're dealing with him in the hospital, and you're dealing with a job change. And so I'm wondering, and you use one word that I'm always real careful about, Marjie, and that's should. So I never want to should on my audience, because we're all doing the best we can. And sometimes we all deal differently. Like you said, you didn't have an adrenaline rush. You were calm and clear, and you kind of were like, okay, what do I do? What do I do next? And that's an ideal. We love that situation, but not everybody. Sometimes we go into shock or sadness or just stillness of inability to move, or just shutting down for some people. So I love that first, you were calm. That is a gift you have that not everybody has, and we don't want to should anybody. Second, you have an amazing support system. It sounds like you have an incredible relationship with your children, which in and of itself is an enormous success. I often have people reach out and say their adult children don't talk to them, and how do I maintain a relationship with mine? And so I think that's really a gift, a beautiful gift you have. Two questions I want to ask you as we kind of move forward is, first, you haven't really shared with us, why do you live in Israel? What's in Israel? And two, the second part of that question is, I want to know, in the midst of this job change, so a major source of your income and your identity disappearing, in the midst of your husband being hospitalized and a lot of unknown, how did you stay hopeful? So first, I'd love to hear about Israel, and then how did you stay hopeful in the midst of that?
All right, you're going to have to remind me about these questions.
Okay,
I hope I remember them one at a time.
Israel.
Okay, so the first one, Israel. Okay, so how did I get here? I was working as the media liaison for the Consulate General of Israel to Boston in 1993, from 1993 to 95.
Okay.
This is back in the days of Rabin and Peres and Arafat and Clinton and the Oslo Accords, if I can even use that word in these days. And I was invited in 94 to move to Israel and work in the policy planning department. And I thought, okay, why not? I just finished my master's degree in international relations at Boston University. I'll get paid to do what I was just doing in school for the policy planning department. And I get to be really part of history.
That's very
cool. And history in the making, if you will. So I decided I was going to go on an adventure. And you know what, Annie? Fast forward 30 years, I'm still here and the adventure's still going. It's absolutely crazy how time passes by so quickly. I can't believe it. I blinked my eyes and, 3 decades have passed, but a lot of water under the bridge, a lot of twists and turns, a lot of experience with successes and with hiccups. We learn as we go along. And if we're not succeeding, we're learning, so it's all what, your path, your journey. It's what makes you, you know, and
I'd love to know, like, what were 3 things that you did in that? So beautiful. That's amazing. Like, you're right. I didn't used to like history. I love history now. I think it's so fascinating. And I love when we can bring it to life for people too. So many people, we can never assume what everyone else's life is like. They might not know the things you know, and you not only know them, but get to experience them, understand them, and be part of them. So I want to know, when life happens, really this whole point of H3 is to really pour into our audience. So I love strategic tips and sound bites. So if you think of, like, what were 3 things that you did to stay hopeful, to keep moving forward, believing that the future could get better in the midst of losing that client and having a husband in the hospital. For some of us, we just want to shut down and curl up in a ball when we get hit twice, 2 major strong disruptions. So what did you do to keep moving forward and to stay hopeful about the future in the midst of that hard season?
First of all, I kept my sense of humor.
Beautiful. I love humor.
Okay. Absolutely had to find something funny in all of it. And the second thing was, I kept my eye on the donut. There's an expression, eye on the donut, not on the hole. So I said, okay, door just closed. Where's the window? What's my new goal? What's my new vision? What's my new mission? And how am I going to get there? So a little executive thinking, long term, what's the goal? And then reverse engineer.
Yeah.
And patience, to be resilient and persistent, because it's not a sprint. It's generally a marathon to achieve the big things, if you will. So yeah, those would be the 3 things I would say that helped me get through that very difficult period.
Yeah.
And everything worked out just wonderfully. The MedTech PR business got back on its feet and having a great time and doing great work and working with the best and the brightest of medical technology scientists who are developing just amazingly breakthrough technologies to help all people worldwide, which is one of the reasons why I like MedTech, because it crosses all political and community lines to be able to benefit people from wherever they come from. And
Marjorie, I love those 3. I really want to hone in on them. And I'm going to ask you after our show to make sure you put those in the comments, because those were simple and clear. You said humor. I love humor. Look for it, make it happen, laugh at yourself, laugh at others, Google it, find something to laugh about. Humor, number 1. Number 2, you said, and I do believe I've heard it before, but it's been a long time, I kind of forgot about it. Focus on the donut, not the hole. I think that's such an important and simple saying, but it's true. Focus on the hole, all you see is the hole. Focus on the donut, you're somewhere, you're going somewhere. And third, probably one of the hardest words in my language is patience. And I think with patience, much can be, you can find progression in little bites, even in the hard stuff, but patience with yourself, patience with the situation, patience, so important. So I'm going to ask you to add those to the comments after the show. The second thing I want to ask you about, Marjorie, is how did you stay healthy? And before you answer that, I was a gym owner for 12 years, had 2 gyms. I always want to remind people that health for our listeners is not just physical, it's emotional, mental, physical, financial, spiritual, relational, and career health. There's 7 areas of health that when we go through a disruption can all 7 be affected. So I'd love to hear like 3 tips from you. What did you do to stay healthy in any of those 7 areas? Or maybe you did one thing for one area and one thing for another, but all 7 of them can come crushing down when our financial and our physical and our emotional health are all kind of being attacked by a disruption. So what were some of your tips that you did for yourself or implemented for your family, for you and your kids, to not only stay hopeful and keep moving forward and looking forward, but to stay healthy in the moment so that you could move forward? What were some of those?
I think the number one thing that I did, both for my physical and my emotional health, is whenever I got stuck or I was feeling lousy or sad or any kind of less than happy emotion, and I needed to jolt myself out of it, I jam out, Annie. I turn on my music and I rock out. The
Beautiful.
living room, outside, on a walk, it doesn't really matter. Music, for some reason, is like the key for me. And it's something that I use, interestingly enough, talking about PR practices in daily life. I media train with music. When I prep a client for an interview or presentation, we always rock out. Well, maybe we don't rock out. Some of them like a chill kind of music. Everyone has their preferences. But whatever their choice of music is, we sway or we rock or we jam, and it clears your mind. You're just listening to the music, you're enjoying the words, you're moving your body, so it's healthy, because anytime, music, movement is medicine. That's one of my friends always says that, so if you're moving, it's good for your body. And it's also good for your mind, because it's like a sorbet. And then you can get on to the next thing, whether it's a writer's block, whether you're just having a crap day, whether you don't know how to handle something at home. The music, because you're giving your mind a chance to rest and enjoy something else in a happy way, you'll find, interestingly enough, that you might actually come with an idea to problem solve.
Yeah, I love it. I love music. I do also say, I talk to people about what's in their medicine cabinet, and the two key ingredients to my medicine cabinet are movement and music. And I say it's such a drug for goodness and health. And when you are moving your body and you're listening to music, whatever kind of music, it just makes you feel better. You could be having the worst day, but get moving and get that. And you're also, you use the word stuck. And I think that's what sometimes why we get still and stay in stress and shock and sadness and let our disruptions define us, is we're stuck. But when we just start moving, even if we don't feel like it, move a little more, listen to some music, get a little, like, you just get this momentum and you get motivated and this energy around that. So do you have a particular genre of music that you like?
Come on, I'm an 80s girl.
Girls just
Of
want to have fun.
course. When music was like really cool. Yes, I like the 70s and 80s roundups. There's some nice stuff going on now as well. I'm kind of equal opportunity, but if you ask my family, they'll tell you I'm still stuck in the 80s when it comes to the music.
I love it. Me too. My family stuck in the 80s, stuck in the big hair. I'm like, the bigger the better. They're like, Mom, straight is in. I'm like, no, not for me. I'm like, I like the 80s, and you could sing along and you knew the words. Like now I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. Why do you need to swear? There's just a lot of things. And I like all music, but I prefer to avoid swear words whenever possible. So I just don't need them in my life. Is there any other tip? So you've got music and the swing. I also love that you not only recognize, Marjorie, which is one of my next things I want to ask you about, but is this works for you, this helped you in a disruption, but you also use it with your clients to help them get unstuck in their writing block, to prepare for a presentation or a pitch, or going out there and being on TV or radio, whatever it is that you recognize. And I think these simple things that are so natural for some of us, I've learned one of my biggest lessons is don't ever assume. Don't assume people understand what you're saying. I have the same story as you or whatever, is that this is something that you and I can relate on. Some people might be like, oh my gosh, I got to turn on the music. I'm so busy watching negative news that I'm depressed every day. Turn that off. Turn the music up and move around your house. Dance like nobody's watching, because nobody is most of the time. So any other tip about health you want to share with us?
I think it's important what you put in your body. If you drink a certain thing or you eat a certain thing, be conscious that it's going to have an impact on your disposition, on your energy level, going up or down, how quickly it goes up and go down. And let me tell you something. I love sweets, okay? People say, what's your favorite sweet? My answer is, I'm equal opportunity. But you know what? I love sweets. They don't like me so much. I love carbs. They don't like me so much. Yeah. So I have to be careful, what I'm, putting into my body, so that I can feel the very best that I can feel. Because when we feel good, and this is my experience, and I don't know if it's yours or everybody out there who's watching this, but when we feel good, we're more productive, we're happier, we can contribute more. When we feel like crap, or just sluggish or whatever, then we're like, where's the Netflix?
Let me just sit, right? Yeah. I think I love peanut M&Ms, and I've always kind of joked, those are my vitamins. I take peanut M&Ms. But I tell people I found this brand new food that I had no awareness of, which isn't exactly true, but I love blueberries right now. But I used to hate blueberries. They were so bitter to me. But now I'm like, I get up every morning and I'm like, I just want some blueberries. And I think it's so funny that I love them so much. And this is new, like within the last year, but it is so much different how it affects my brain. So much different about how I feel about, and you're right, when we take care of ourselves, then we're happier, and then we project that out into the world. So Marjorie, another area that I always think about is, yes, hopeful, then healthy, but then third, I think about happiness. And you already talked about humor, but in the midst of hardness, in the midst of sitting in a hospital room or getting the call or the email that says, hey, we're going to end this contract, where do you find, I know some of my listeners are sitting in some hard stuff. And so where do you find humor and happiness in the midst of the hard things we go through?
Well, I'll tell you about a really nice moment that made me happy. My husband had come home from the hospital, and he was going to need to recover. And I had just gotten the call that I had lost the client. I took a moment to look around the room, and I saw that the whole family was watching me. And I thought, well, now I'm going to have to role model, a hiccup, a big hiccup. So I excused myself, and I went up to my room, and I spent about 10 minutes crying my eyes out. I took 10 minutes to feel like absolute crap about the whole thing, because you know what? It didn't feel good. Let's be real about it. It did not feel good, and I was pissed. I was really, really angry. And then I said to myself, okay, your 10 minutes is up. Forward. Now, while I'm in my room thinking about what my next steps were, there were knocks at my door. Each one of my kids had come upstairs to check on me, to see if I were okay, and to let me know that everything was going to be fine and that they would help me in any way that they could. And they each hugged me. And I said to myself, wow, I must have done something right. Look how empathetic they are. And I know that they're empathetic to not just their family, but also to their friends and to their colleagues. And I had such moments of sheer joy and happiness in the midst of the biggest trauma period probably of my life, that didn't, something that didn't personally, like physically happen to me, but, within the family structure where I was responsible for making things better. I was the caregiver, which can be even harder than the person who the thing happens to.
That's right.
So here's a moment of light in a period of darkness. And that helped me to remember, keep your eye on the donut. Come and go. Yeah. What's the new goal? And it was around that time that I got inspired from out of nowhere to write a book to help somebody out there. The question was, what on earth to write the book about, Annie? I really didn't know what I was going to talk about in the book. I just had an overwhelming feeling that I could contribute to society in a bigger way than I was already doing. Yes. And then a little bit later, the conversation with my daughter, and the net result was the power of PR parenting, which you see over here. Shameless plug.
Well, I love that you said you focused on as you were telling the story, I was like, oh, she shifted her focus from the donut to the whole. What a great story. What a great example. And I was with a couple of my nephews recently, and we were having ice. It was a sunny day in California, and I was taking them out for ice cream. And I said, I don't know if anything that can make me happier than eating ice cream with you two on a summer day. Like, what could be better in the world? And one of them said to me, $10 million. And I said, actually, I don't think so. I said, money really doesn't bring joy. And I know a lot of people will say, yeah, but I'm willing to try. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with having money and making money. but it is in the preciousness of the moments with the people that we love that by choice choose to love us back. And I always try to remind parents, because you have kids doesn't mean you have someone that loves you. You have a child, you get the privilege to love them. It is their choice to love you back. And not only did your children show empathy, but they showed just beautiful love for their mother, beautiful stopping what they were doing, yes, in an empathetic way, but also just in love of another human being, and that they have a good relationship with you. And I think that is a gift that I never take for granted. I always consider a cherished gift. And I do think money can be really nice, but I think it is the moments that we go through where somebody shows up for us that's extraordinary. That's like, I'm going to get through this. And even if I don't, I will. I'll figure it out. But right now, I got this. I got these 3 kids that are stopping in to say, hey, Mom, are you okay? Are you okay? So one thing I want to ask you, Marjorie, is is there anything you wish you would have known prior to what happened with your husband and this contract? Like what would you tell your younger self before this happened? What would you wish you had known before you went through these 2 disruptions?
In terms of my husband's event, you can't assume that everyone is like you. He had said that he was dizzy. I have vertigo. I have 3 types of vertigo. So I said, all right, he was getting ready to go to the gym. He'd gone to the shower, he was getting dressed, getting ready to go with a neighbor of ours to the gym. And then he says, I'm dizzy. And I thought, well, then sit down for a second and clear your head. Not what's the big deal, right? Because I'm always dizzy or trying to keep my marbles in the dish, in my head because of the vertigo. And I should have taken it more seriously. Just because there's a situation that I have doesn't mean it applies to him or anybody else. I should have been more aware. I shouldn't have gone back to sleep. I should have been more tuned in. And since that happened, when somebody tells me of a symptom, I follow it through until the end now. I don't brush it off. That's number 1. In terms of the job, well, like I said earlier, no more situations where all my eggs are in one basket. And by the way, it doesn't necessarily have to be where your eggs are in different baskets in the same field. Like if you have a business and you have multiple clients, or maybe you have 1 client, it doesn't mean you can't do something else with your skill set to create an additional line of revenue. As long as we're kind of okay, capable of doing stuff and in a good, reasonably good place emotionally and mentally and intellectually, all the possibilities exist. Even when things don't seem like they're going your way, they can just as quickly turn around and everything's fabulous again. So don't give up, keep going, and just, wait for the right time for the universe to say, now's your moment.
Yeah. You said a word that I have a lot of words I'm sensitive to, partially because I speak and partially because I listen, but assume. One of the first things I really teach people that want to become professional speakers, never assume. In the beginning, I assumed, and now I don't assume. And you said assume. You said I assumed because and that's how that lens, right? It's like learning to look through your own lens and then expand it to what if they have a different story? What if and you learned it through this circumstance with your husband and with the job is don't assume they'll always be there. Don't assume it's the same as you, all those assumptions. So I love that you're just like, okay, I'm evolving. I'm paying better attention. I also love that you said something I think really important that people forget. And you said, I follow through to the end. So when somebody dies, a lot of people show up for them. Unfortunately, I've gone to more funerals in my life probably more funerals than weddings for sure. And I've gone to a lot of weddings. And I always think a lot of people show up in the beginning and then we forget about the person. So I always encourage people, I want you, if you really want to be there for this person, show up 3 weeks out, show up 3 months out, because that's when it gets quiet and the reality sets in that person's really gone. In the beginning, it's beautiful to show up, but that person's usually in shock and can't even receive. But 3 weeks out, it's pretty quiet and lonely. And 3 months out, it's really quiet and lonely. And if you check in at that 3 weeks or 3 months with whatever someone goes through, they're more able to say, here's what I actually really need right now. I need someone to call and check on me. I need to go for a walk in the park. I need someone to make me dinner now when nobody else is, and I'm still sad. I'm stuck in the sadness. So that's beautiful. Marjorie, another question I wanted to ask you is, I know you work with clients yourself. what do you, what is a success story of someone you've worked with about communication? Tell us again, what is the name of your book?
The Power of PR Parenting.
The Power of PR Parenting. So who's somebody you've worked with on the principles and lessons side of PR parenting that you have had success with? Is there a story you can share about someone you've worked with, an organization, an individual, a parent?
There is a fabulous, fabulous story of somebody that I worked with. And there's a fabulous story about someone I didn't work with, but who read the book and tried out one of the exercises successfully. And then they, 6 degrees of separation. We all know each other, right? So a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend ended up sending me this video. So the first story, very quickly, is about crisis management, like we talked about with my husband. And that's in chapter 1 of the book. And this lovely woman with a couple of kids was finding herself in a situation where she had a huge crisis on her hands. Her 2 girls, elementary school age, junior high school age, were watching her, and she was about to freak out. And then she thought about chapter 1. And she thought to herself, Margie didn't freak out. I'm not going to freak out either. There is a solution to this problem. Let's see. Assess the situation, devise strategy and tactics. I can do this with my own skill set. And she called me back and she said, I fixed the problem in 3 minutes without freaking out. I was so excited for her. Well done. I mean, really, really well done. That I was on a natural high, just on that news for like the next 2 weeks.
That's awesome, Margie. I love that story. I love when people hear what we do and they implement it. I know you said you have another story, but this is what I want to do with that. I want you to hold that story because I know my listeners are going to want to reach out to you and hear that story from you and connect with you and keep going. But I also want to make sure they listen to the end. So we're going to close it out now. And Margie, what I would like to ask, my final question of you is, where's the one best place for people to connect with you if they do want to hear that story, if they do want to learn more from you, if they do want to stay connected and follow you or get your book? Where is the one best place where they should find you?
LinkedIn.
Excellent. LinkedIn. So if you will, after this gets done, make sure to share that link on LinkedIn. Then people can click on it. You can share it on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. They'll be able to follow you. You're welcome to reshare this to your market. But I just thank you so much for being here today, for sharing your PR of parenting. Is that what it is? PR, communication of parenting?
Yep. It's called PR Parenting.
PR parenting. We need tips with parenting. There is no manual. It's easy to get stressed out. We do not shame you parents that are stressed out. It's a hard job, maybe the hardest job, maybe the most rewarding job, but challenging. And to stay calm and clear and confident in your abilities as you navigate parenting is so important. Well, Margie, thank you so much for being with me. Thank you to our listeners. Remember, you can ask questions in the comments. Marjorie or myself or both of us will get back to you. We appreciate you. We cheer you on. And we remind you, through disruptions in life, first take care of yourself. Be hopeful and healthy and happy. I promise the sun will come out tomorrow. Appreciate you being here. Take care, and we'll see you next week.